بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأنكحوا الأيام منكم والصالحين من عبادكم وإمائكم إن يكونوا فقراء يغنهم الله من فضله والله واسع عليم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة لأهل التقوى واليقين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين العبد المؤيد الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. Dear viewers, brothers and sisters, one of the jurisprudential topics in connection with marriage and which is discussed also within the subject of marriage is the issue of suckling a child or breastfeeding a child. There are children who might have lost their parents, their mothers, or their mothers have no milk to give to their children. So they find another woman, a nursing mother, who would give milk to the child instead of its mother. Now, suckling a child or breastfeeding a child which is not one's own child will have its implications and its aftermath. It has its effect and impact on the parents and on the relation between the child and the parents and the relatives of the breastfeeding mother. There are conditions which, if met during suckling, the suckling will produce its impacts and will have its effects on the child and on the mother and on the husband to whom the milk belongs. Of course, if a woman marries a man and they are blessed with a child, the milk belongs to the mother as well as the husband. So we can say in a way that the milk belongs also to the husband, and the child will be the child or the foster child of the husband as well. So suckling has its effects and impacts on the relationship between the child and the parents, and also those of the relatives of the child and the breastfeeding mother, as well as the husband. When a child is breastfed under the conditions or with the conditions which I will mention inshallah in a few minutes, then a number of people become mahram to that child. And of course, mahram is one who cannot be married. I did explain the rules of mahramiyya, the rules of mahram and non-mahram in the previous sessions. And here again, I will explain that mahram is one who cannot be married. For example, your sister is mahram to you, your aunt, paternal aunt, maternal aunt are mahram to you. They cannot be married by you. Their grandmother, of course, is mahram to you. You cannot marry her. Having said that, one of the concerns, one of the questions sometimes asked by some parents who cannot bear child is this, that they want to adopt a child and bring the child to their home and then educate the child, bring up the child and keep it as their own child. Now, one thing that is, of course, that's a matter of concern for the parent is that if the child is male, then he will be non-mahram to the mother. And if the child is female, then the female child will be non-mahram to the husband. Now, what are the ways through which the parents can become mahram to that child? One of the ways through which the child can become mahram is to breastfeed the child and to give milk to the child. Now, if the child is, of course, female, then the husband's mother or sister can breastfeed that child, and the female child will become mahram to the man. And of course, if the man's mother gives milk to that child, then that child becomes her sister. And if the man's, of course, sister gives milk to that child, to that female child, then that female child becomes this man's foster niece. So these are the complications, the jurisprudential laws which we have to take notice of. You cannot adopt a child and change the child's name and give it your own name. That is something that has to be noted here. I might have explained the rules of adoption in the previous sessions, but here again I would like to reiterate, to tell you again that adoption in the sense to change the child's name and put your own name on that child is forbidden, because Islam gives very much importance to lineage, to the child's parental relationship. And the child's lineage cannot be obliterated. It cannot be wiped out. You cannot change the child's lineage or parental relationship. That relationship has to be maintained. Now, there is one question: how to make that child mahram to yourself if that child is female, and how are you going to make her mahram to your wife if that is a child? Of course, breastfeeding is one of the ways. If the mother does not have milk to give that to the child, then of course, the woman's mother, the woman's sister, or the woman's very much close relatives can breastfeed that child, and that child will be either the woman's brother or the woman's nephew, and so on and so forth. The relationship will change as a result of breastfeeding. So breastfeeding is an important issue that has to be taken into consideration. Now, regardless of adoption, the issue of suckling is an important issue, and we have to be very much mindful. The ladies must be mindful who they are breastfeeding, when they are breastfeeding, how many times they are breastfeeding a child, a female child or a male child. That does not make any difference. And they have to be very much wary of this. They have to be mindful, because they cannot give different children, they cannot breastfeed different children and suckle different children at the same time. Of course, it's permissible as per the Islamic law, but what is important is that the woman should keep in her mind as to who she is breastfeeding, because sometimes she might forget. those breastfeeding children and those children who are being breastfed, who are being suckled at the same time, they are sisters and brothers to each other. They are foster sister and foster brothers to each other. And the relationship should not be lost. It has to be remembered by the mother, who she breastfeeds and who she suckles, and then their relationship should be maintained. It should not be forgotten. Otherwise, when they grow up, they might, if that is not remembered, then they might one day marry each other, and that is forbidden. A male child or a man, a foster brother cannot marry a foster sister. That is absolutely forbidden. So it's very much important for the mother to remember who she is breastfeeding and whom she is giving her milk to. Of course, there are certain conditions and certain criteria for breastfeeding and for creating mahramiyah, and that is not very much easy to achieve. And all those conditions have to be available in order for the mahramiyah to become available, to be created. Now, before mentioning those conditions, I would like to say that if a child is properly suckled, and if all the conditions, as I will mention, will be available and are available, then a number of people will become mahram to that child. I will mention those people one by one. Now, the number one, the first person who becomes mahram to that child is the woman herself. She becomes the child's foster mother, number one. Then the second person who becomes mahram to that child is the husband of that woman, because the milk also belongs to that husband. And of course, in the Arabic terminology, that woman is called the foster mother or riza'i mother, the foster mother. And the husband is called the riza'i father, the foster father. The couples are the child's parents, but foster parents. Now, these are the two people who become mahram to him, and there are more people, I will mention them. So, number three is the father and mother of the woman who breastfeeds that child. And of course, all in their, upward line, all those people who are in their upward line, for example, their great-grandfather, if they are existing, if they are alive, they all become mahram to that child. And the fourth category or group of people who become mahram to that child, the children born of that woman, because that children becomes the foster brother of that child who has been suckled and breastfed. And the fifth group of people who become mahram to that child are the children of that woman. So they are the grandchildren of that woman who breastfeeds and who suckles that child. The sixth group of people are the sister and brother of that woman. Of course, that suckling mother's sister or brothers become mahram to that suckling child. And they become, of course, and if the sister and brother of that woman is her milk sister and her milk brother, all of them become mahram to that child. And the seventh group of people who become mahram to that child is the paternal uncle and paternal aunt of that woman. They also become mahram. The eighth group of people who become mahram are the maternal uncle and the maternal aunt of that woman. They also become mahram to that child. And the ninth group of people who become mahram are the descendants of the husband of that woman. Of course, the children and the descendants and all those people who are born in the future or mahram and become mahram to that child, and of course that child cannot marry them in future. All of this has to be recorded, written, preferably in some books, and they have to be given to that child. And also the parents should keep a record of those things, so that God forbid they should not commit incest sometimes, because they are not guilty and they might not be aware. They have to be informed, and the relationship has to be explained to them so that no haram action is committed. Now the 10th group of people who become mahram to that child is the father and mother of that husband. Of course, however high the line may go up, the father and mother of the husband, and of course the husband's grandfather and grandmother, all of them become mahram to that child. The 11th group of people are the sister and brother of the husband. Of course, the sister and the brother of that husband to whom the milk belongs. And even, of course, if they are her milk sister or her milk brother, it does not make any difference. All of them become mahram to that child. The 12th, of course, group of people who become mahram to that child is the paternal uncle and paternal aunt, and maternal uncle and maternal aunt of the husband. All of these people become mahram to that child. So this is probably very much clear and tangible and do not need to be explained further. If a child is suckled, all these people become mahram to that child. And mahram means that these people are not under the obligation to observe hijab or Islamic modest dress in front of that child, and it's not necessary for the foster mother to cover herself or her hair or her body except the private parts when in the presence of that child. This is of course the application of mahramiyah. And insofar as one individual is mahram to another individual, they can, of course, can appear without hijab in front of each other, provided that there is no fear of falling into a sin, and provided that one of them does not look at the other with the intention of driving pleasure or seeking pleasure. All these things have to be taken into account. Otherwise, when it comes to mahramiyah, this is the application and the function of mahramiyah. It has to be noted that if, of course, a woman suckles a child, the father of that child cannot marry the daughters of that woman. The father of that child cannot marry the daughters of the woman who has suckled the child. And of course, if a woman suckles a child with the conditions which I will mention, of course, there are a number of conditions, at least 8 conditions are there, which I will mention in just a while, then, of course, the husband of that woman to whom the milk belongs does not become mahram of the sister of that child. This is also an important issue. And of course, there are cases, there are situations and occasions where mahramiyah takes place and where the husband becomes mahram, or maybe the wife becomes mahram to the relatives of that child. All of these have to be studied in the book of Islamic laws, and every individual, of course, who is interested in learning these issues must go to a risala, to a treatise written by one of the religious authorities. Of course, when it comes to the rules of suckling and breastfeeding, the rules do not make any difference. All the religious authorities have said the same thing, and there's not any difference when it comes to the rules regarding suckling a child. All the religious authorities have said almost the same thing. So if you find a risala, an epistle of Islamic laws, you can read it, and the details are of course there. You might not have access to such a book, so you will need to listen to someone. You might need to listen to this video program or to this program because it's easier for you to understand than to go to a book and turn over the page of a book and read all the Islamic laws one by one. Now, this is an opportunity provided for you. This is a time where you can, of course, enrich your knowledge about Islamic laws. Now, there are a number of conditions regarding suckling a child, and those conditions have to be taken into consideration. Very much important they are. What are those conditions? Those conditions are mentioned, and I just enumerate, I just read those conditions for you. Number one.
ناجيتك يا رحمن ودعوتك يا ديان يا خالق الإنسان الله 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 يا خالق الإنسان الله الله الله.
That in order for a child to become mahram, the child should suck the milk of a woman who is alive. This is the number one. Of course, a dead woman who has just died might have milk in her breasts, and if the milk is taken out, or if the milk is of course in a bottle, and if it is given to that child, this will not create any mahramiyah. So the woman should be alive, and she should give breast feed and suckle the child herself. This is the first condition. The second condition is that the milk of the woman should not be the product of fornication or adultery. She might have become pregnant as a result of committing adultery with a man. And now she has a child, an illegitimate child, and she has milk in her breast, and she is ready to give the milk to another child. Of course, that milk does not create mahramiyah. The milk, if the milk has to create mahramiyah, that milk should be from the breast of a woman who has not committed adultery and whose milk is the milk of legal pregnancy and, of course, legal birth to a child. The third condition, which is also very much important, is that the child sucks milk directly from the breast of the woman. And the child should not be given milk from a bottle. If the child receives milk from a bottle, then that mahramiyah will not be created. The fourth condition is that the milk should be pure and it should not be adulterated. So the milk should be unadulterated. It should be pure milk, and of course only pure milk will create mahramiyah, and the child will become mahram to the woman and to the woman's relatives and to the woman's husband, as well as his relatives. The fifth condition is that the milk be of one husband only. Of course, it is very much likely or possible that a woman has just been divorced. She has had a child from the former husband, and now she is pregnant with the second husband and she has already given birth to the second child. Now there is a supposition that the same woman might have given 8 times milk to that child, and now 7 times he gives milk from the second husband, from the milk of the second husband. Will this create mahramiyah? Of course not. The entire milk should be from one husband, not from 2 children and 2 husbands. That will not create mahramiyah. And the 6th condition is that the child does not throw up the milk. She does not, throw it up due to illness or due to a difficulty or due to, of course, health problem. If the child pours out the milk, then of course that will not have any effect. And if he vomits the milk, the suckling has no effect. That is an important point, an important condition. And the 7th condition is that the suckling should be of such quantity that it could be said that the bones of the child were strengthened, fortified, and the flesh allowed to grow due to that suckling. And if that cannot be ascertained, then if a child suckles for 1 full day and night, or if it suckles 15 times to it is full, 15 times subsequently, of course, one after another, without there being any interruption between the suckling. For example, if a child suckles and then drinks water and then eats little food and then again suckles, that will have no effect. The child should suckle 15 times, one after another, subsequently, and each time the child should eat and suckle to it is full. That will have an impact and that will create mahramiyah. And of course, the 8th condition is that the child should not have completed 2 years of its age. It has been said that only a child that has not reached complete the end of the 2nd year can be breastfed, and then the mahramiyah can be created. If a child has just started its 3rd year, it has entered its 3rd year of life, and the child, though it can be breastfed, but it will have no effect on the relationship between the child and the parents. So mahramiyah will not be created. The child should be breastfed within the first 2 years. And it has been always said by ulama and scholars that it is recommended that the child be breastfed until 2 years, and it is makruh, it is abominable to breastfeed a child beyond the 2nd year for more than 2 years. Now if a child is 25 months old, 26 months old, it is no longer desirable to breastfeed the child. So other kind of milk, food and other things, nutritious food should be given to that child, and no more breastfed feeding should be there. These are the details and of course the rules regarding suckling a child. Of course there are some other issues related to suckling, and if you would like to learn more about the rules of suckling a child, you yourself should turn to the Risala, to the books of Islamic laws by the religious authorities. I have, as far as I could, I just mentioned the most important and the most necessary rules regarding the suckling, regarding breastfeeding a child. Inshallah, this will be enough for this session. I will carry on the discussion. The topic will change, inshallah. In the next session to come, I will explain the rules of divorce. Until then, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم بارك للحجاج والزوار في الزاد والنفقة، واقض ما أوجبت عليهم من الحج والعمرة بفضلك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.